Is he the guy right out of the get? Right
I
out of
think
the
so.
chute. I mean, what's the
I
starting
think so.
five look like with these injuries?
The
The
starting
beginning?
five, Stevens has indicated he's going to continue to go small. So, you'll see it'll be what you got last year. It'll be Tice, Tatum, Jalen, Smart, and my hunch is Teague.
Well, I know Evan's all in on the hospital Celtics.
Well, I am in all in the hospital Celtics, and with Peyton Pritchard dislocating his finger the other day, it's just add another one to the list. But I thought of the starting five, and I had Chris Grenham on last week from Forbes, and we talked a little bit about the starting five. And I actually, because of Teague's, he's green to this offense, right? He's not a guy that's been locked in with Stevens. You're throwing him into the fire, so to speak. And some guys learn really well that way, some guys don't. So with that being said, I was always kind of curious with the lineup of Smart, Brown, Tatum, Tice, but instead of Teague, I go a different direction. I pivot to Grant Williams, who I think is a guy that gives you a little bit more size, a little bit more experience in terms of familiarity with the team over Teague, but gives you some switchability on the defensive side. And if that three-point shot that we saw during the bubble and into the playoffs, can sustain itself, he's a pretty valuable piece out there, being the, fourth, fifth option that spreads the floor offensively and defensively, can switch, we'll call it, 2 through 4. I'm not sure if you want him on point guards all the time, and I'm pretty positive you don't want him in a traditional center, but those in between wing guys, I think he can handle himself pretty well. I think the starting five is up for debate, but, if Stevens wants to go with Teague and go smaller instead of Williams, I don't think I really have a problem with that, because they're going to change pretty quickly anyway, Mark.
Yeah, and he's talking about multiple ball handlers. I mean, as you saw with those Brad Wanamaker rotations, he can never get enough ball handlers on the floor. And it's going to depend on the matchup. I mean, what's going to be different in this first exhibition game is obviously Embiid, who they've had a problem with, but they don't have Tristan Thompson anyway. So I think they're going to continue to go small, but the Grant Williams idea is a good one. I mean, especially since he's going to be a better three-point shooter than he was last year.
He's not going to go
that was just the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, 0 for 25 or whatever it was?
Yeah, it was rough last year.
But then he made 25 straight in the bubble, so it all evened out.
So he's like Marcus Smart. He's streaky.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Since I was going to get to this guy later, but since you brought him up, Tristan Thompson, obviously there's already this love affair, as predicted, by the way. I've wanted to see Tristan Thompson on the Celtics for years. There's this love affair between he and not only the organization, but with the fans, but, endearing himself, referencing Kendrick Perkins that first time that he talked to the media and, laying the wood and talking about the, wanting to be a bigger Marcus Smart, when in fact, this is the guy with the championship who's been in the league for X number of years and played with LeBron James. Smart's still the young guy comparatively anyway, young vet, obviously, but compared to Thompson, he's been in the league half the amount of time, but he's, wants to model his game or his, aggressiveness and grit and physicality and things of that sort, in the paint versus obviously what Smart does everywhere all over the floor. It was a great shout out that people loved. And then, the tweet surfaced from 2010 talking about rooting on my Celtics because he was such a Kevin Garnett fan. This guy just seems like is going to be such a great fit to me. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. But on top of that, talking about the injury, do we know any sort of timetable or estimate for when he's going to be available?
Well, first it was that, he may not be back until the end of training camp. Now it's, I don't know if he's going to make it for the season opener, which is a pretty good indication he won't be there for the season opener or Christmas Day. He's got a lot of work to do because he hasn't played since last spring.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play in the bubble.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Cleveland wasn't there.
So he's coming back from a hamstring and he's going to be rusty. So, that's going to take some time. Maybe you don't see him until Kemba comes back.
How about his fit, beyond the obvious in terms of he's a great, big, but personality-wise?
Personality-wise, he's, Teague was talking about this the other day, just how he's noticed how he helps young guys. And That's what he's going to be. You know, this team has so many people who need a little direction. Rob Williams, I mean, it'll be invaluable having him with Rob Williams. But they haven't had an offensive rebounder like this in how long? I mean,
well, Cantor could offensive rebound, just go do a whole lot else. You
no,
know?
no.
And some of the finishes sometimes would be a little questionable too.
But this guy, you know, he rolls to the rim. I mean, he knows all those little things, what to do off a pick, handoffs. I mean, he'll help move the ball. And I think they're going to be a better team for that. I mean, the question is, do you still start Tice? I think they're going to start Tice at least initially. And this guy would bring incredible energy off the bench.
Well, like you said, it's the process of getting Thompson comfortable out of the chute too.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's such, you know, he's known for being such a great teammate that, you know, I have no doubt. The problem is he's getting older. Even if he's only 29, that's an old 29.
Yeah, so some wear and tear on that body, some deep postseasons.
So how long does it take him to come back from this injury? That's my question. I've seen guys like this before who have arrived and you never really see them the rest of the year. I mean, there is that happens. Maybe I'm thinking a ways back, but Theo Ratliff is the one that sticks out in my head. He was a great big addition, and I forget the injury, but he did it in the second game of the season, and that was it. They never had him again. So you got to be really careful with a guy like this too.
Yeah, it's about managing it. Him and Kemba are going to be the guys that you manage. But you talk about, like, there just seems to be a respect factor for Thompson. I mean, he talked about how Brown and Tatum have both spent time trying to recruit him to get him on the team. You know, Brad and I think maybe even Danny's talked about how they try to get Tristan for years and how he's been somebody they've gone after. And, you know, you talk about all the things that he brings to the table. The experience that, I mean, last postseason, all you heard is about, you know, the Celtics need a real, you know, graybeard vet on the team that can show them how to win. Now, you know, Thompson's 29, but again, when you've gone, you know, to the NBA Finals as many times as he has with LeBron James, you just know, some things that some people aren't privy to. You know, you just have that. His defensive stuff is going to be really special. I think if Thompson's fully healthy and they get their best defensive unit on the floor, and that's going to include four of Brown, Smart, Tatum, and Thompson. I'm not sure who the fifth guy is yet, but that's a scary defensive team that Brad's going to lean on a lot, because Brad, you know, at his core, Mark, is a defensive coach first.
Yeah, and that's the kind of combination that you can take a guy like Kemba and put him in, and you can probably cover for him. So you can play a weaker defensive player with a group like that, you know, and keep the scoring going. But yeah, that's Grant. I'm really curious about seeing more of, because he showed so much in the bubble. I think he's going to be an improved player this year. I think you're going to see something else. There was some talk that he had a low ceiling, but I don't know. I think you can see a lot more out of him.